Welcome into the latest edition of the Huddle Up Podcast. Look, we've been out for a few weeks. We've been really busy here at our day job at the radio station. I myself came down with an illness, so it is what it is. I know really bad timing on all that. You have an NFL podcast, and you haven't put out any segments during the lead up to the NFL draft, but we're back, and I want to talk all things draft. First, post-draft episode here of the Huddle Up Podcast. What I want to do is kind of give you my draft winners and losers. Now, there's obviously a lot of winners and losers every year in the NFL draft, but I want to kind of give you my team that I think may have been the biggest winner overall and the biggest loser. We're going to start with the biggest winner. And I never thought I would say, man, I think the Cleveland Browns really did a good job in the draft, but I think the Cleveland Browns did a really good job in the draft. If you remember, they were the second overall pick. Everyone thought it was going to be Travis Hunter. After Cam Ward's taken number 1 overall with the Titans, what did they do? They trade that pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And boy, did they get a haul. Cleveland got to get the 5th overall pick, so they traded 2 to 5. They got a 3rd round pick from Jacksonville in this past draft, 2025, and they have Jacksonville's next first round pick. So the next year's first round pick for Jacksonville in the 2026 NFL draft, they have that pick as well. And at 5, they were still able to take Mason Graham, who a lot of people thought, outside of Abdul Carter, might be the best defensive player in this draft. I have said for a while that I actually thought Abdul Carter, not Travis Hunter, was a better fit for what the Cleveland Browns wanted to do, just because they're kind of set at corner, right? They have Denzel Ward. They had Greg Newsome. I wanted a pass rusher on that defensive line opposite of Myles Garrett. Enter Abdul Carter. I think he would have been perfect there. Well, they trade out of the number 2 spot. They don't get Abdul Carter, but they get a really solid interior pass rusher. Mason Graham was really good at Michigan against the run, against the pass. He's going to play on the interior of that defensive line. He will still be a nice complement to Myles Garrett. I really, really like that pick for them. And again, they got a haul, and all they had to do was move down 3 spots. They went from 2 to 5. They got a 3rd round pick from Jacksonville this year, and they got the Jacksonville Jaguars' first round pick in next year's draft. That is the 2026 NFL draft. They had 2 picks in round 2, and here's what they did with it. Linebacker Carson Schweizinger from UCLA, a sideline-to-sideline tackler. They needed a linebacker in a big way. They got one of the best linebackers in the entire draft. That second round pick, this is 36 overall. So they got 36, 33, running back Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State. They needed a run game. They don't have Nick Chubb anymore. They essentially have Jerome Ford, and that's it. Kevin Stefanski, his offense is built around the ability to run the football. They needed that. So Mason Graham, Carson Schweizinger, you get your running back in Quinshon Judkins. In the 3rd round, you take a really high ceiling, high value pick in Bowling Green tight end Harold Fannin Jr. Tyler Warren had a lot of hype coming around him. Colston Loveland also went in the 1st round. But if you go look as far as the triple crown in terms of tight ends in college football, receptions, yards, touchdowns, it was Harold Fannin Jr. Harold Fannin Jr. probably should have won the Mackey Award instead of Tyler Warren. Now, Tyler Warren won it because he was a higher profile player. He was on a great squad. His team made it to the college football playoff, and he was a very versatile player. But you want to talk pure tight end, what they did on the field in college football in 2024, nobody did it better than Harold Fannin Jr. And then that 2nd, 3rd round pick, they grabbed Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback out of Oregon. They needed a quarterback. Look, they have Joe Flacco. You have Kenny Pickett. You still have Deshaun Watson on the roster. I think Deshaun Watson has played his last game in Cleveland. I don't think he's going to be back with that team, at least not in any starting capacity long term, right? And then in round 4, you go running back again, Dylan Sampson. What did I just tell you about Cleveland's offense under Kevin Stefanski? You could never have too many running backs. You go get Quinshon Judkins. Then you go get Dylan Sampson, who's the SEC Offensive Player of the Year this year. I mean, Dylan Sampson carried that Tennessee offense all the way to a college football playoff appearance. Dylan Sampson is a heck of a football player and a really good value pick in the 4th round. And then what did they do in round 5? Everyone wants to talk about the fall of Shedeur Sanders in this class. I don't really think it's a fall. We'll get into that in our next episode. But they take Shedeur Sanders round 5. Now, typically I would laugh at the Cleveland Browns and say, yeah, that's just like Cleveland taking 2 quarterbacks in the same class. But I like it, and here's why. I mentioned I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to be there long term. So let's say you have 4 quarterbacks now. We have Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. Now, obviously, you're not going to carry 4 quarterbacks. But depending on what you want to do offensively, you have a lot of different options. Joe Flacco, the veteran, the guy who's been there, done that. He's proven he can win games in the NFL. He can be a leader in your locker room. Kenny Pickett, he's been in the league for a few years now. He has a winning record as a starting quarterback. He's got a little bit of mobility. He's kind of a safe option for you. If you want to run the ball, Dylan Gabriel is kind of the wild card in that room, right? He's by far your most mobile of your quarterbacks, a little bit undersized. But if you want to go back there with Judkins, Dylan Sampson, and Dylan Gabriel and run the crap out of the ball, that's an option there for you. And then Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, you love his ability as a pocket passer. He has the ability to make every throw. And, I mean, that's a guy you got in round 5. So I actually really love what Cleveland did. They take 2 quarterbacks, 2 very different quarterbacks that are going to compete depending on what style offense you want to run. You have a variety of different types of guys. 2 stud running backs in Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson. You grab arguably one of the most talented tight ends in the NFL draft in round 3 in Harold Fannin Jr., and you grab Mason Graham at 5 overall. You got an extra 2nd round pick and the Jacksonville Jaguars 2026 1st round pick for trading out of that number 2 spot. I thought it was an excellent draft by Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, and company over there in Cleveland. That might be my biggest winner of the NFL draft. Now, as far as losers go, I think it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year were top 5 in the NFL in passing offense and rushing offense, but they had a bottom 10 defense. So you're thinking, okay, they're going to go defense early in this draft. They had a chance to do that. At 19 overall, which is where their 1st round pick was, no corner outside of Travis Hunter, who, not really a true corner, you don't know what he was going to do. No corner. Will Johnson was still there. Jedi Barron's still there. You think they're going corner. No safety has been taken. Malachi Starks is still on the board. Nick Emmanwori, who did not go in the 1st round. I thought that was a huge mistake. I mentioned the other day, I thought he could be a sleeper of the entire 1st round. He doesn't even go in the 1st round. In the 1st round, at 19 overall, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. Now, Emeka Egbuka is a solid player, but a lot of problems with this pick. 1, Emeka Egbuka was never a wide receiver 1 at Ohio State. You had Chris Olave there. You had Garrett Wilson there. Marvin Harrison Jr. Last year, Jeremiah Smith was that number 1 option. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he can't be a 1 in the NFL. Brian Thomas Jr., just this past season, proved he could be a 1. He was never a 1 at LSU because he was always playing second fiddle to Malik Neighbors. But you went want over need in round 1 when you had so many needs. This team needed corner in a big way. I mentioned you could take Jedi Barron, Will Johnson, Nick Emmanwori, Malachi Starks. You could have went corner, safety, anywhere. Now, I will say, in rounds 2 and 3, they get Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish as your 2 corners. That's fine, but you could have had the pick of the litter at 19 overall. You went want instead of need. Then you grab 2 edge rushers. I'm good with that, with your next 2 picks. So you go Egbuka, back-to-back corners, back-to-back edge rushers. That's great. You needed help in pass rushing as well. But your last pick in the draft in round 7, what do? Another wide receiver in Tez Johnson, an undersized wide receiver who didn't test well at the combine. Now, he had a really good season at Oregon in that wide-open offense, but you went receiver again. And I get it. Baker and the boys are going to put up some points in Tampa. But look at the receivers you have. Jalen McMillan had a really good season as a rookie. Mike Evans is back. You were able to get Chris Godwin back in free agency. I think you drafted your wide receiver 4 in round 1 in Emeka Egbuka, and I'm not even sure that Tez Johnson makes the team. I like the 2 picks at corner in Jacob Parrish and Benjamin Morrison. Then you take 2 edge rushers that are both likely going to make an impact, but you kind of wasted not 1 but 2 draft picks on wide receivers that you didn't really need. That doesn't even include Cade Otton, who catches a crap ton of passes from Baker Mayfield. Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, they're going to catch passes out of the backfield. You have no shortage of offensive weapons on this team, and you needed help on defense in a big way. You could have gotten a safety, which you didn't address. You could have went and got a linebacker, which you didn't address. I I don't really understand where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were going, especially in round one. And then not only do you go want instead of need in round one, you drafted another receiver in round 7 when you could have got a value pick at safety. You could have got a value pick at linebacker. I get it. You signed Desmond Watson, the big nose guard out of Florida, to go along with Vita Vea, but you could have done something like that in the draft. I mean, there's a chance Tez Johnson wouldn't get drafted at all. You could have gotten him as an undrafted free agent. Also, you go Emeka Egbuka when Matthew Golden is still on the board. I think Matthew Golden was a better receiver. Jaden Higgins was still on the board. I think Jaden Higgins was a better receiver. So not only did you go receiver in the first round, I'm not even sure you went best receiver available at that point. Now, Teteroa McMillan was already gone, but everybody else outside of that was still pretty much an option. Did not like what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did at all, because the Falcons got better. They got 2 pass rushers. The Saints got their quarterback in Tyler Shuck at 40 overall. Now, is he the answer? I don't know. The Panthers, they get Teteroa McMillan. Everybody in your division got better on draft day, and I'm not sure the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did. So to recap a little bit, my biggest loser in the NFL draft, for me, it's going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they made too many questionable moves for my liking. And my biggest winner, surprisingly enough, is the Cleveland Browns. You get 2 stud running backs. You get 2 quarterbacks. It gives you a lot of option of what you want to do on the offense. Let your 2 young guys and Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders compete against each other. Let the best man win. Harold Fannin Jr. might be the best pick in all of the 3rd round. And then you go from 2 to 5. You still get Mason Graham. You get an extra 2nd-round pick, so you had 33rd and 36th overall, and you get the Jacksonville Jaguars 1st-round pick in 2026. I thought it was a masterclass by the Cleveland Browns all draft long. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the Huddle Up Podcast. Next time, we're going to talk about Shedeur Sanders, the fall of Shedeur Sanders, if you will, and I'll tell you why. I'm not sure it was a fall, and we'll kind of break down what I think he could do in the NFL. That's coming up next time on the Huddle Up Podcast.